Guys, here's how I had a very positive labor and delivery experience despite the unexpected turn of events. If you want to find out how I did this, keep watching because it might help you out there. I believe that I watch lots of videos like this and it definitely helps me to, get to the point that I'm at right now, and I want to help someone else too. So here goes. If you've been watching me up until this point, you would know that I went in hoping for a natural, unmedicated vaginal delivery for my baby girl, and I ended up having a C-section. And before I even got to the point of having a C-section, I had all the medications you can think of. So it was completely different to what I hoped for, but at the end of the day, I feel like I literally feel like it was a glorious experience. And you can call me crazy because a lot of people feel like labor should not be this fun. I make it sound like it's fun. A lot of people feel like it should not be this fun, but hey, however you want to see it, just take a thing or two from like how I approached this entire experience. If you're about to go through it or if you're hoping to go through it in the future, I wish you all the best. But yeah, let's dive straight into exactly what I did to make sure I had a positive labor experience. And this is not to take away from the fact that sometimes you cannot actually mitigate having a negative traumatic experience, and in those cases I really do empathize with you, but in a lot of cases I feel like there are ways that you can manage situations to ensure that you have a positive experience. The first thing I did was that I was intentional. I was gonna say F word. I was very intentional about having a positive experience. Honestly, this has been something that I've looked forward to for such a long time in my life, and when it came down to time for me to go through pregnancy, have a baby, I just decided that I had to enjoy this process. Like, nothing is going to take this away from me, except God forbid there are really bad things that could happen, and I'm really grateful that in my case it did not happen. So yeah, nothing is going to take away from this that I can control. I'm going to do everything within my control to ensure that I actually have a positive experience. So I was very intentional. I knew from day one that I wanted a positive experience, and I was intentional about going everywhere and doing everything I needed to do to ensure that I achieved this. So that's the first thing. Know what you want and just make sure that you put your heart and soul into going for it, because that's what's going to make all the difference. Number two, I was realistic. So I knew that despite me wanting my labor and delivery to go a certain way, labor and delivery is not predictable. It cannot be predictable, and I knew that there's so many spectrums of what could happen, and I was ready for worst case scenario whilst I still hoped for best case scenario. So I prepared my mind as to if it doesn't go how I want it to go, if it goes this way, if it goes that way, how am I going to feel, what's going to be my take home from it. My ultimate take home, my ultimate goal was that I'm fine and my baby is fine. Literally, if we both come out fine, I've had the best delivery experience ever. That's literally my mindset. If we both come out fine, I've had the best delivery experience ever. Now, I mean fine in the context of, we're alive, we're both alive, and we don't have any life-threatening conditions. If it's things that can be managed, there's nothing absolutely wrong with it. I am fine and I will be happy about it. So the third thing I did was that I researched how to have a positive experience. So I watched lots and lots. Literally, I was on YouTube almost all the time watching people's experiences, listening to people's experiences, doing research. I was doing like lots of research. My friends will come into my house and be hearing people in labor screaming. I'm going, why are you trying to traumatize yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm actually just trying to prepare my mind. I'm trying to learn what could happen, what could go wrong. Despite me not being able to predict everything, I was trying to learn as much as possible, and it definitely paid off in my opinion, because I was well versed with a lot of things to do with labor and delivery by the time I was going into labor. I actually purchased the Positive Birth Company's hypnobirthing, the course, and that literally gave me an in-depth understanding to how the body works and how you can have a natural delivery, and if you don't have a natural delivery, how you can go about having other types of delivery. So cesarean, all deliveries are actually natural. So they literally just listed everything possible that could happen and how you can go about them, making sure that you are having a positive experience whilst they're going through it. So when people watch like things like the hypnobirthing, a positive birth experience, all those things, they think, oh, you've probably fixated your mind on, I must have a vaginal delivery. Fine, that's what I wanted, but I knew I did not fixate too much on it. I knew that things could happen, things could go wrong, despite me knowing that I will fight so hard to get that vaginal delivery that I wanted. But if it didn't go that way, it's not the end of the world. And a lot of these positive birthing company courses actually really help you to see that. They help you understand that despite how your baby comes to the world, despite how you have that baby, despite how you birth that baby, it can still be a very positive experience. Let's just hope that no one loses their life in the process. That's probably going to be one of the most traumatic things that could happen. But as long as no one loses their life and no one's having any life-threatening conditions, then it could still very much be a positive experience. The third thing I did was that I learned all the different kinds of labor, all the different kinds of deliveries, and I knew what I wanted in every single scenario. I mean every single scenario. If I was to have a vaginal delivery, I knew how I wanted it to go. If I was to have an assisted delivery, I knew how I wanted it to go. If I was to have an epidural, I knew what I wanted. If I was to have a cesarean, I knew what I wanted. I knew everything I wanted in every scenario you could think of, literally. In my case, there happened to be one or two scenarios that I actually had not researched about, and it's not possible to know everything, but I knew that if it comes to it, that something comes up that I don't know about, I will ask questions and I will ensure that we're sharing this decision making process, myself and the healthcare professional. Shared decision making was a top priority for me. I didn't want to feel like anything was being thrown at me. I didn't want to feel like I was being forced to make decisions or choose certain things. I wanted to make sure that I was sharing those decisions and I knew what was going on with my process, my delivery, and if I wasn't in the right mind space to actually make these decisions and have these conversations, I had prepared my husband, who was with me in my delivery room, to have these conversations on my behalf. So like I knew that I just didn't want anything to be forced on me, because a lot of the negative labor and delivery stories that I've watched, people who've had like negative experiences, one constant theme was that a lot of them felt like they were puppets in this story, like they were like, you know, just a part of it. No one was actually involving them in decisions. And if you know how I literally was hassling the doctors, like when they will come and tell me to do something, I'll be like, no, actually, let's talk. What else can you offer me? Or I'll be like, no, actually, I don't want to do that. How about I do this? Like that was literally how I went about it. But I was always making sure in every single scenario and every time I was about to make a decision that I was watching the monitor, and I was always asking, is the baby still fine? Is the baby fine? Because I knew that if it got to a point where, you know, things are not safe anymore and I cannot delay decision making, then I'll obviously leave it to the physicians to handle. And in that case, I would reconcile in my mind that I'm doing this for the safety of myself and my baby. So, and that would also make me feel better about that decision that I have now made to hand over care to the physician. So a lot of the negative birthing experiences that I watched, the common theme was just that people literally felt like they were just, you know, puppets in the story, and it wasn't shared. They didn't understand what was going on, and a lot of them did not have a say in how things went. A good amount of the negative ones had things that, you know, were beyond control, and that's something that you should, you know, make room for in your mind when you're going into labor and delivery. Things could go wrong and they could be beyond your control. So in that case, you should be ready to, you know, resign those things onto the healthcare professionals who are, you know, trained to do these things and trained to handle these situations, to make sure that you and the baby are fine. And in that situation, you've also made a decision to save your life and save the baby's life, and that's also something positive. I feel like another thing that I did was, you know, ensure that my mindset was right, because it was mind over matter for me. In a majority of the times, it's mind over matter. It's mind over matter, being that it's how your mind is positioned towards situations that you perceive the outcomes of those situations. I don't know if you understand. So I could literally tell myself that this is going to be the worst thing ever, or I could tell myself that despite everything, whatever happens now, if this happens, if my baby comes out and she's safe and healthy, I will be happy. So I'm not going to worry about the little things that go wrong as long as they're able to be rectified. So that was how I positioned my mind. I was not going to be worried about things that went wrong. I was just going to, you know, focus on the safety of myself and the safety of my baby, whilst ensuring that I was involved in decision making. So at the end of the day, I made most of the decisions with the healthcare professionals. My husband didn't really get to do so much, which thank goodness for him, because he already had to deal with me yelling at him a lot. So the next thing I did was I wrote a birth preferences. So notice I did not say a birth plan. Notice I did not say a birth plan. I wrote a list of birth preferences, and this was a list of things that I would like, and I would probably put my birth preferences, I'll put a link to it below, or I'll put it on the screen. A list of things that I would like in different situations. So if you see there, I wrote about having a vaginal delivery, I wrote about possibly having a epidural, I wrote about possibly having a C-section, and I just wrote about how I would like each situation to go. If we had to go down the ladder of interventions, if we had to do this, then this is what I would prefer. If we had to do this, then this is what I would prefer. You can't control everything, but there's some things that are standard and that you might be able to, you know, have a say. For example, things like delayed cord clamping. With a C-section, you can still have delayed cord clamping. Like if your placenta is okay and everything's fine, you can still have delayed cord clamping. And they came to me when my baby was born, and they said to me that my placenta had calcified. So in that case, I knew that delayed cord clamping would have not really been possible, so I let go of that. So be ready to let go of things in the face of possible danger to yourself or your child. Be ready to let go of mindset. Be ready to let go of things that you've probably imagined would happen, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that your baby is fine and you are fine. Literally, that's all that matters in the grand scheme of things. The next thing I made sure to do was that I had the right people in the room with me. So in my case, I had my mom and I had my husband. I had other people that I could have actually put in the room as well. There was a host of people who I felt like would have been really great in the labor and delivery room with me, but at the end of the day, it came down to these two people, so my mom and my husband. And despite our little meltdowns that we had, and at times I yelled at my mom, at times I yelled at my husband, at the end of the day, I had two people in there that I could let my frustration out on and they wouldn't take it against me. I had two people in there who I knew wanted the very best for me. I had two people in there who I knew were looking out for me. I mean, my mom is not medically inclined at all, but I actually explained the monitor to her. I explained that, Mom, this is the baby's heart rate. Mom, this is the baby's activity. Mom, this is my contractions. This is this, this is that. At the point when I got my epidural and I slept off and my husband slept off because we'd had sleepless nights, my mom stayed awake and monitored our like vitals. She literally sat there watching for the baby, watching for me, watching the monitor, making sure that we were fine, because she saw that we had both slept off, myself and my husband, and she just said she's not going to sleep because she needs to make sure we're fine. Despite us even having a healthcare professional or a midwife coming in and out of the room, she still made sure to keep an eye out. Sorry, I'm just watching my daughter on the monitor, so whenever you see me look to the side, I'm just watching to make sure that she's not awake yet. So yeah, and when it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't handle my pain anymore, I let out all my frustration on my husband and he was okay. Like, we all came out of the experience happy despite how high tension it was in there. So choose the people that would be in the labor and delivery room with you wisely. Choose your birthing partners wisely. Choose the people wisely. I knew I wanted my mom there because she would obviously be a calming, you know, presence. She's my mom at the end of the day. Regardless of anything, she obviously doesn't want me to die, so she will make sure that I'm in the best position and she will make sure to look after me and my husband as well. So it was just the best people that I could have ever imagined in the room. And shout out to my friends who obviously I could have actually asked to be in the room as well with me. There was lots of people lined up that wanted to be there for me, and I'm just so grateful that I had such a support system. So surround yourself with the right support. And the last thing that I feel like contributed to me having a very positive labor and delivery experience was that throughout the entire experience, through everything, I looked forward to meet my baby. I was so eager to meet my baby, that it didn't matter. The little things that went wrong did not matter at the end of the day. I mean, when I was on the operating bed, I was told a couple of times that my blood pressure was low and it wasn't coming back up. I did not fixate on that. I just asked them, are they handling it? And they said yes. So even after I'd had the baby, they mentioned it that my blood pressure was low and it wasn't coming back up. And mind you, they were telling me all these things because I had expressed to them and they'd seen in my birth preferences that I wanted to be involved in decision making and I wanted to understand what was going on. And at some point they found out that I was a pharmacist. They literally looked at me and said, what do you do for a living? Because I literally hassled them with question after question after question, and I was literally trying to get involved in almost everything. I think I was a pain. I was a little bit of a pain, but at the end of the day, we all had a good experience, including the doctors and the anesthesiologist and everybody else that was involved in my care. They ended up coming back and we all had like banter and we were like, wow, that was quite an experience. So after having the baby, they kept coming to check my blood pressure because it was still really low, but I didn't let any of these like cloud my, you know, happiness, cloud my judgment, cloud me wanting to meet my baby. I was just there focusing on the end goal. The end, I literally had tunnel vision. I was like, yes, my baby is about to be born. Nobody distracts me. You sort my blood pressure out because that's your job. You make sure that I'm calm. Like literally, my goal is to meet my baby. My baby was my goal. I was just ready to meet her and I was so happy when she came out. So my main aim for making sure that I had a positive experience was that through all the negative experiences that I watched on YouTube, I noticed that a lot of people struggled when their baby was born to have that euphoric moment and also to be able to bond with the baby soon after the baby was born, and I didn't want that to happen to me. So having a very positive experience through everything, despite the ups and downs, helped me to still have that euphoria. Literally, the minute my daughter cried her first cry, like literally I'm tearing up already, the minute I heard her cry, oh, it was so emotional. I was so happy when they brought her out of my belly. Literally, it was such a good moment. It was such a good moment, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for how it went, and I'm grateful that I was still able to bond with her immediately she came out, and I did not let any of the negative sides or the potentially negative parts of my labor and delivery affect how that period went, because it was the best thing ever. And I really hope that if you do go through this labor and delivery experience, or however your labor and delivery experience goes, that you are able to have that really beautiful moment with your newborn baby and you're able to bond with your baby. And if you do end up having a negative experience, I really do empathize, and I really hope that you are able to, you know, process what has happened and try as much as possible to, you know, get your mind back to a good place to be able to look after yourself and your baby after such a very intense life moment, because giving birth is nothing simple. Having a baby is nothing simple. So you are literally, you're superhuman for even going through pregnancy. You are superhuman and you should be praised, and you should be so proud of yourself. And I hope that whatever it is that went wrong that made you have such a negative and traumatic experience, I hope that you're able to, you know, work through it in the near future, or as quickly as you possibly can, so you can enjoy having a baby. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you watch this video to this point, leave a thumbs up, like this video, and I will see you in my next video. I really do hope that someone was able to take something out of this.